Randy Couture, the great Randy Couture, is in studio. MMA elite fighter, Randy. If not in the Hall of Fame, going to the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you've been retired long enough for the Hall of Fame.
I'm in the Hall of Fame, yeah.
Oh, did they not have a sort of like NFL where you got to wait it out for 5 years or whatever it is?
No, they don't actually. I retired for about 13 months, and in that 13 months, they put me in the Hall of Fame. And then I came back out of retirement, and I fought for like 4 more years.
Yeah, yeah. That's nice. I'd be like imagine a guy playing in the league wearing his Hall of Fame jacket.
The closest is Bill Parcells. They wouldn't put him in because he's always going to come back. He's going to come back.
Did they give you a blazer, like a gold blazer or something?
Nah, big glass plaque thing.
Bring it with you into the octagon next time. Hit the guy over the head with it.
Yeah, right? That might work.
The event is a wrestling event. It's a Wrestling World Cup. It's something that I think is, Randy obviously has a very strong background in wrestling, being an alternate, right, on the U.S. team?
On the Olympic team, yeah.
On the Olympic team.
It's one of those ones that got away, the one I didn't accomplish.
How much of that is subjective and how much of it is you just lost to the wrong guys at the wrong time?
That's pretty much that. The guys I lost to in the finals I had beat before is just, some days it's your day and some days it's not.
Was it horribly frustrating, like watching guys on your team beat guys, I don't know, Russian guy or Swedish guy or whatever that you knew you could handle?
It's frustrating not getting to compete, yeah, and we call it being on the scrub club because, the number 2, 3 guy gets to go, travel, be a workout partner for the guy who won it, who gets to compete. And you do a lot of video scouting, you film his next opponent, you take notes on his matches so you can kind of help him prepare. You're part of the team, part of the process. So, and that's always, it's always tough.
The event
part of it
that we're plugging takes place on June the 11th and 12th, and it's out here at the fabulous Forum, and it's a freestyle Olympic team. And if you want to support wrestling and you like Olympic-style wrestling, this is where you go. I don't feel like it comes to town that often. It's a weird sport in that it's popular in some places, and like out here, we didn't have it in high school. But it was
didn't have it here? Because
no.
There's like 300 high schools that have wrestling in Orange County alone. It's a
maybe
big wrestling state.
Maybe the MMA thing has helped a resurgence in it.
I think that has helped a little.
I don't know. So here it was just we didn't have. Well, there's certain things like lacrosse that don't exist in North Hollywood.
Yeah,
not much exists. Oh, we got stupid soccer, but that was about it.
You could run in a circle, right?
We had a cross country track team. Like if there was ever a sport that got you laid less than no sports, that actually was minus dick sucking points. You know what I mean? Like if you said, if there's 2 dudes at a party and you said to one dude, what do? I run on the cross country team. And the other dude, what do you do? Nothing. Good. Get your dick
He's
out.
Above you. Yeah.
I actually above the person that does nothing. They actually invented a sport that actually made women's pussies dry up. But wrestling, when did you make the move from wrestling to mixed martial arts?
My first fight was in May of 1997, UFC 13. And I honestly, it was a little different back then. It was a different sport. I think the athletes were out to prove that their style of fighting or their style of martial arts was the best style. I was predominantly just going in there to show them what wrestlers could do. And I learned quickly I needed to learn a lot of other stuff.
So, as we've always said, or as I've always said, it's now its own sport, where it used to be, well, the judo guy's going against the wrestler guys, going against the boxers, going against the kickboxer. Now it's just the mixed martial artist is going up against one another, and it has grown by leaps and bounds. So I always said, when the next generation is not the converted tight end from college and not the converted wrestler from wherever, but grows up in MMA, that they're going to be so much better than the previous generations. In the very beginning were just sort of tough man competitions.
Akin to that, yes.
Even before you, Randy, I mean, like on the Tank Abbott days where the dude's just out there, wraps a bar towel around both hands, is out swinging at other guys.
That's about how it was.
And now these guys are just world class. And
very, very, very good athletes.
And who do you think? I mean, is it John Jones? I mean, who are some of the guys that you think are some of the?
I mean, obviously Jones is had a bunch of trouble outside the cage, but inside the cage as an athlete, he's as gifted as they come. He's a long, rangy guy with a 96-inch wingspan at 205, and he's 6'3" or 6'4". I mean, he's a big dude, a lot to handle.
He has that incredible innate balance where you can see him, where a guy's an Olympic-style wrestler attempting to throw him down, and you can just see him using every ounce of his fiber. Mm-hmm. And it's totally unique, and it's very much, you don't really learn that at the dojo. It's like the way he uses his body.
There. Conor McGregor's another one that obviously is making a lot of headlines right now, more for the things he's doing outside of the cage, but also backing it up in the cage. You know, he's stepping in there. He's got a pretty dynamic fighting style for that weight class, and it'll be interesting to see if he pulls this off and gets a fight with Mayweather. I don't think it's a smart idea. As good as a martial artist as he is, he's still not a boxer, and you know boxing well. I think in a boxing endeavor, if that's the rules of engagement, it's a pretty fair chance he's going to get his ass kicked.
Well, I'm doing the math. Nobody who boxes was able to really touch Mayweather. I mean, the thing about what people don't really realize is being tough is good and training hard is good, but if you then bring the elite athlete part into the sport, that's when you get a dominant.
The great unequalizer.
Athletes. Yeah, and there are guys in the past that boxed that were tough as nails, like Tex Cobb. Yep. Randall Tex Cobb. There's one of the toughest guys in the world.
Head like granite.
Yeah, Jerry Quarry. Guys like that, just tough. Oh, he's tough. He never stops walking forward and throwing punches. Yeah, except for with Muhammad Ali or Sugar Ray Leonard or Sugar Ray Robinson, the insanely physically gifted people, it's just not going to work. Mm-hmm. And the thing about Floyd is there's no amount of fast twitch muscle training you can do. You're either slick. It's sort of like dancing. How are you really going to train a guy who can't dance to really move like Michael Jackson in his prime? Or you got it in you. And when you got it in you, mixed with a whole bunch of training, that guy's going to win every time.
I think you're right.
So I heard Conor McGregor being interviewed, and he was talking about Floyd Mayweather, and he was hedging his bets a little bit, but I'm curious, for someone who knows and is as close to sport as you and who's done wrestling and then, obviously do striking and MMA and everything and put it all together, Conor was kind of saying, well, we're not going to box. And he didn't really say no, but he was kind of alluding to some version of a fight. As you know, there's kickboxing.
This is the question. What are the rules of engagement? What are the rules that they're going to put together to get Mayweather in the ring with Conor McGregor?
I think, pardon the pun, you would have to slug it out like they do with gloves. They'll go, the heavy-handed guy, the guy punches real hard, he wants to use Reyes gloves because they're
puncher's gloves. Yeah.
They're puncher's gloves. I'm a knockout guy. The other guy doesn't want that glove because he doesn't have the power the other guy has and doesn't want to feel the other guy's power through the zero padding. They put all the padding around the wrist, but not so much in the knuckle area. So you argue about the gloves. And then the one guy fights at 145 and the other guy fights at 165. What are we going to come in? We'll do a catch weight. There's ways to do it.
What is a catch weight?
Catch weight is...
They'll agree to make 155.
Gotcha.
So the one guy doesn't have to cut much and the other guy can go up 10 pounds.
Yeah, we're 20 pounds away from each other. You come on up 20 pounds. Right. No, you come down 20 pounds. No, I'll see you in the middle. And maybe it's in a weight class that doesn't exist.
Gotcha.
We'll make one up. But there's a lot... They want to negotiate where the fight's going to happen.
Size of the ring.
Size of the ring. Big deal for the guys who used to get on their unicycle and really move around the ring versus the guy who wanted to walk him down and hit him with the Reyes glove.
Wanted in a phone booth.
In the head, right. So I would imagine a world where Conor McGregor said to Floyd Mayweather, let's say hands and feet. No takedowns, no tapping out, because McGregor would take him down and then lay on top of him and then choke him out or do whatever these guys would do. And they just want pure hands I don't know if McGregor's going to agree to that, and I don't even know why he should. Mayweather's cleaned out the division and beyond with the best hands guys.
You'd have to believe you're an elite boxer at a level of Floyd Mayweather.
Which there isn't. So, but I could see a world where it was hands and feet. Floyd, you can work on your kickboxing a little bit. and that would be a very interesting... That'd be an interesting fight because it's sort of how much could McGregor keep him off with his feet versus how close could Floyd get to him. And
kicking range and punching range are two different things.
Start throwing some hands.
I can hit you at a much different distance with my legs and my feet than I can with my hands.
Who was the guy? I saw you fight Brock Lesnar. I've seen every one of your fights, but Brock Lesnar seemed like the scariest guy.
He was a big guy. And he moved well, very athletic for a big dude.
Right, and you're walking around at
220,
and he's walking around at 265 or something.
Well, he made 265, but he cut 20 pounds to make 265.
I mean, he's a huge mountain of a dude, and you're fighting. Maybe 205 is probably your weight.
Probably a more natural weight for me. I was a small heavyweight.
Right. So why? What are you thinking when you're getting in there and you see Lesnar cross the octagon?
I mean, I broke him down technically and felt like there was some places I didn't want to be. I ended up in one of those underneath of that big mountain of a guy. But I thought in the clinch and in the wrestling part of it, I could hold my own and make him work. And that was the question. Nobody had really made him work. Nobody had really hit him. I don't think he really ever made friends with part of the game, which is you're going to get punched, you're going to get hit, and we saw that in some of the other fights that he was in. He still kind of shied away from getting cracked, and if that doesn't trip your trigger and let you know you're in a fight, you're probably in the wrong game. And I think that's what he came to realize. But yeah, he caught me with a great. He's a lot longer than you think he is.
Yeah,
he looks
he's
big and thick,
big, right?
But he's got a huge reach, and they just kept unfolding.
What are the purses today relative to when you started for championship
when
style
I started
fights?
Or when I ended? Because I fought for 14 years. It changed a lot from when I started to when I ended.
Let's go all the way through.
And I'm not really in that circle anymore.
It's an octagon, by the way, but go ahead.
I mean, that circle of...
Oh, I got you. Right.
God.
Communication.
Yeah. But when you started, what kind of paydays were we talking about?
I mean, my first UFC I fought twice that night. It was a heavyweight tournament, and I made $20K.
And who'd you fight? You remember some of the guys still around?
I haven't seen anything from Stephen Graham, who was my final fight that night. Tony Hollimo was the first fight that night, and he unfortunately passed away a few years ago, self-inflicted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
it's disappointing.
How much of that? Now we're getting to the self-inflicted. We see it in the NFL, and we're seeing it with boxers. But
talking about CTE and traumatic brain injury and all that stuff, I don't think that was the issue with him. I think there was something else going on. But he was in Finland. It was a Finnish guy. He had a troubled past and got into politics, but his politics were a little skewed too. Didn't go well for him, and it's a sad story.
Is it? But there's probably less traumatic brain injuries in the MMA than there is in the NFL, for sure, right?
I would think,
and probably and boxing as
I
well.
mean, basically, witnessing car crashes or the impact of car crashes on a football field. But we all know the risks of the athletic endeavor that we love. I knew the risks every time I walked up in that cage. It didn't matter. I love what I do. I love what I did, and I did it anyway.
So what kind of purses were we seeing at the end of your career versus what we're looking at for, like, I don't know, Conor McGregor going
Certainly
against Diaz again?
I've heard rumors that McGregor was making $5 million one or two of his last fights.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not Floyd Mayweather kind of money, but that more than any of the mixed martial artists are getting paid.
And what
he's probably the top of the pay scale right now.
When we'll assume, like, what can you talk about what you and Brock Lesnar got paid?
I don't know what Brock got paid. I never really plugged into that. It didn't matter what anybody else was getting paid. I negotiated my contracts with my managers, and I got paid well.
Did you get $1 million?
Yeah, a little north of that for the last couple fights.
Does it matter if you win or you lose?
Sure,
when
it can.
comes to getting paid?
You can, especially mid to lower tier fighters get show money. That means they came, they showed up, they made weight, they fought, and then they'll get, if they win that fight, they'll get a bonus. A lot of contracts are set up that way with a bonus, a win bonus. You get so much money to go out there and do your thing, and then if you win, you get more.
Plus, when Randy's manager puts $100K on Lesnar,
it's a real hedge.
Well, he'll kick down. He'll let Randy wet his beak. He'll kick some down. So that's a little extra walk. We call wham, walking around money. You know what I mean?
Sure. Wham.
Speaking of wham, it's a tough fight.
Yeah. So now wrestling. I don't know what the status of wrestling vis-a-vis the Olympics is right now. I remember
off the bubble now.
It was on the bubble
still,
for a while.
It was on the bubble. We had all that, and that's I think the last time we had world class wrestling in LA was during the Save Olympic Wrestling movement that was going on. So obviously cleaned house. What used to be called FILA was the governing body for wrestling internationally. A lot of guys there that were taking a lot of money, doing a lot of different things, and not listening to the IOC, which wanted more exciting rules. Changes in uniform, make it more viewer friendly, adjust the scoring, and they weren't paying attention at all. They didn't really care about any of that, and I think that's why it got put on the bubble to get their attention.
To me, wrestling,
clean house, it was one of the original Olympic sports for crying out loud.
It's like
how does that go?
Like IHOP taking pancakes off the menu.
Exactly.
I don't get it. That's why we're here, aren't we? Like there's got to be room for wrestling. But now I'm thinking UFC because so many of these guys, it's such an international endeavor now. These things are taking place all over the world, and there's not a country that doesn't have a representative in the UFC. This has got to become an Olympic sport at some point.
There's a movement towards that. The original version of the Olympic sport was called pancration, which was very, very similar. And obviously there'd have to be some structured rules. There were no rules in the ancient Olympic pancration games. You could do anything. They fought naked, for crying out loud. So,
we should go back to that.
it'd be a viewer spectator sport then, wouldn't it? But obviously there'd be some watered down version of what we see now in professional mixed martial arts. I think like boxing, Olympic boxing is a bit, the scoring and the way it's judged is a little bit watered down from the professional version.
Yeah.
There'd be some protective gear involved, shin pads and maybe a bigger glove, but still fingered, still be able to grip, still able to do submissions. There may be a limit to the types of submissions you can do. No twisting leg locks.
Right.
Potentially, the original catch as catch can. In the Uyghur rules, you could choke. In the non-Uyghur, more standardized rules, you couldn't use chokeholds. Be some form of that, and I think there's a very, very long, strong movement to see that as an Olympic sport.
That would definitely be exciting, and the thing that's kind of nice about it is, archery's great, but you don't take a lot of national pride in having the best archer.
It's more of a
But you win the heavyweight in this sort of, we'll just call it UFC Octagon Mixed Martial Arts Department. Your country does sort of have the baddest dude on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to just break it down, whatever country that heavyweight is from, and the reason I say heavyweight is because he's going to beat the light heavyweight of the other country or whatever it is. But you got the guy with his hand raised from whatever country it is. You can take some pride in your country's got the number one ass kicker in the land.
Got a jewel in the crown.
Yeah, not the land, the globe. Yeah.
Did you, Randy, know any of the principals or people involved in the events from the movie Foxcatcher, DuPont, or any of those people?
Very good friends with Dave Schultz. I know Mark, and still friends.
That
with
was my
Nancy.
First real introduction to that whole story. So I'm wondering what your perspective on that was.
I thought they did.
Did you see the movie?
I saw the movie. I have not got the chance to sit down and watch the documentary that just came out, which I understand is way more accurate.
Yeah, I think the movie's a little dramatized.
The movie was great. It was well done. Having met John DuPont,
Steve Carell
was amazing.
Did you have
Mark
to call
Ruffalo was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Channing Tatum.
I was good friends with Channing. Was great. I was good friends with Dave, as was most guys on the national team at that time.
Did he ever ask you to call him the Golden Eagle?
No.
Okay, that's good.
He was kind of a creepy dude. But they did an awesome job of portraying them and compacting a 12-year story into 4 years and kind of telling the story.
Interesting.
So.
And what happened to DuPont? I mean, I can't remember at the end of the movie. Sure the guy's had enough money for some legal counsel.
He was found
Guilty.
Guilty,
Insane.
obviously, but insane. And
He died in prison in age 72.
He was put in jail until he was competent to serve his time, basically.
So he died in prison?
I believe so.
2010.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what it says on Wikipedia.
Always breaks my heart when a rich guy dies in prison.
It's really tough.
Randy, what's your regimen now that you've hung up the
Still
striking
training.
gloves?
I own a gym. So, if I'm in Vegas, I'm at the gym there. I like a gym here called Unbreakable up behind the Pink Taco. Do a lot of kind of dynamic cross-training type stuff. Same type of stuff I did when I was fighting. I don't do a lot of sparring anymore. It doesn't make a lot of sense to get punched in the face.
Right.
But I do work with some fighters and work with some guys to help them out.
What do you think? What do you make of all the injuries and all the cancellations and all the big fights?
It does seem to be a rampant lately.
And a lot more frequent than when you fought. Is it guys training
shows? When I was fighting, there were less shows
right.
Through the course. Now there's almost a fight every weekend, and it is a contact sport. You got to train hard, and in a very physical training regimen.
Do you think that I was saying with all the dropouts, or not dropouts, but cancellations,
right?
And all these big, like everyone wants to see Daniel Cormier, everyone wants to fight John Jones, and oh boy, this is going to be the fight of the century, and then Daniel gets hurt, and it's a theme that's repeated itself a lot. Obviously, these guys are going at it a little bit too hard leading up to it. But
accidents happen, things happen.
Do you think that there's going to be any kind of regulation? Any kind of thing like they do with college football where they go, you can go 2 hours a day, but that's it. Or you can't go full pads or contact before this, that, or the other.
I don't see that. It's such a personal thing. You're training partners and your coaches and all that. It'd be really hard to regulate that part of it. There's just a very fine line you walk in a contact sport like ours. And you want to get a group of guys around you can trust. But even then, there's still going to be accidents. There's still things happen.
And do you feel, I'll serve you up a nice tough guy question, that you guys fought injured more than these guys fight injured because you're at a disadvantage when you go in there and you have you're dinged up?
I don't know if you ever walk into a fight 100% healthy. There's always this or that, little naggers that happen. And you push through them and, you tape them up if you can or just deal with it. It's a rare thing to walk into a fight where you don't have
just because of the intense training that led up to it.
Absolutely.
And then last question: anyone going to beat John Jones?
Well, I think John's going to have his hands full with Daniel Cormier. John's been out. He looked at there was a lot of ring rust, frankly, in his first outing since all the trouble. Daniel had the injury, but Daniel's still been more active and he's a great fighter. So it's going to be interesting. It's always interesting when you have trouble making a case and picking a winner. Yeah,
it's quite the sport. And again, WrestlingWorldCup.com is where you go for the information. It's coming up here in L.A. at the Forum on June 11th.
Get to MC the gala on the 9th.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
That'll be
here as well, which is going to be a lot of fun. So.
That'll be at L.A. Center Studios.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a lot of celebrities, a lot of wrestlers, a lot of our top guys there. All obviously in an attempt to raise some funds and get our team lined out and ready to go to Rio and win a lot of medals.